A Bavarian professor founded a secret society in 1776 that lasted barely 9 years before being crushed by government authorities. Yet 250 years later, millions believe his organization still controls global banking, orchestrates revolutions, and manipulates world events from the shadows. His name was Adam Weishaupt, and he never controlled any banks, never accumulated significant wealth, and died in obscurity as a minor academic. But the mythology surrounding his Illuminati has become one of history's most persistent conspiracy theories, blamed for everything from the French Revolution to the Federal Reserve to modern cryptocurrency markets. The reality is far stranger than the myth. Weishaupt did create a secret society designed to infiltrate positions of power. He did recruit influential members across Europe. He did develop elaborate codes, secret rituals, and hierarchical structures designed to avoid detection. And he did advocate for revolutionary changes to society that terrified the conservative authorities of his time. But here's what actually happened. The Illuminati was a radical Enlightenment book club that briefly attracted a few hundred members, mostly disaffected academics, minor nobles, and idealistic young men seeking intellectual community. It operated for exactly 9 years before the Bavarian government banned it, scattered its members, and destroyed its organizational structure. Weishaupt himself never had money, power, or political influence beyond his position as a law professor at a second-tier university. He spent the last 40 years of his life writing obscure philosophical texts that almost nobody read. When he died in 1830, his passing was noted by a handful of academic journals and forgotten by everyone else. Yet the conspiracy theories only grew stronger. By the 1790s, conservatives were blaming the Illuminati for the French Revolution. By the 1800s, anti-Semitic propagandists had merged Illuminati mythology with Jewish banking conspiracy theories. By the 1900s, the Illuminati had become a catch-all explanation for every bewildering political or economic development. Today, the Illuminati appears in hip-hop lyrics, social media memes, and thousands of YouTube videos claiming to expose the truth about Jay-Z's hand gestures or the symbolism on dollar bills. An organization that existed for 9 years in Bavaria has supposedly controlled world events for over 2 centuries. This is the story of Adam Weishaupt, the man behind the myth, the professor who became a boogeyman, and the truth about what the Illuminati actually was versus what conspiracy theorists claim it became. The man who would be forever accused of secret conspiracies to undermine Christianity was raised by the church he supposedly wanted to destroy. Adam Weishaupt's early education was entirely in Jesuit hands, the very religious order that conspiracy theorists would later claim the Illuminati was founded to oppose. This irony contains an important truth. Weishaupt's intellectual formation owed more to Jesuit methods than he ever acknowledged. When both his parents died during his childhood, Adam became the ward of Baron Johann Adam Eichstätt, his godfather. Eichstätt was curator of the University of Ingolstadt and a complex figure, officially loyal to Bavaria's Catholic establishment, while privately sympathetic to Enlightenment philosophy. Under Eichstätt's guardianship, young Adam attended Jesuit schools, where education followed a rigorous pattern developed over centuries. The Jesuits believed in shaping young minds through disciplined study, memorization of classical texts, and careful moral formation. They emphasized obedience to authority, hierarchical organization, and the use of education as a tool for social influence. The curriculum was demanding. Students learned Latin and Greek, studied rhetoric and logic, read classical philosophy, and absorbed Catholic theology. The goal wasn't just transmitting knowledge, it was forming character and creating loyal servants of church and state. Weishaupt excelled academically, but chafed under the system's constraints. He found Jesuit theology intellectually stifling. Their insistence on religious authority over individual reason contradicted his growing exposure to Enlightenment ideas. Their political conservatism clashed with his sympathy for progressive reform. But here's what's critical. While rejecting Jesuit theology, Weishaupt absorbed Jesuit organizational methods. The Illuminati he would later create mirrored Jesuit structure: hierarchical ranks, absolute obedience to superiors, elaborate initiation rituals, and the goal of influencing society through strategic placement of members in positions of authority. You see, Weishaupt's relationship with the Jesuits was deeply ambivalent. He opposed their beliefs while admiring their effectiveness. He wanted to destroy their influence while copying their methods. This contradiction would haunt the Illuminati throughout its existence. In 1768, at age 20, Weishaupt enrolled at the University of Ingolstadt to study law. Following in his father's footsteps and preparing for an academic career, the university was small, provincial, and intellectually conservative. The Jesuits controlled most faculty positions and determined curriculum. But 1773 brought dramatic change. Pope Clement XIV suppressed the Society of Jesus, dissolving the Jesuit order in response to political pressure from European monarchs who viewed the Jesuits as too powerful and too independent. This suppression created opportunities for non-Jesuit academics. Positions previously reserved for Jesuits became available. The intellectual monopoly that had dominated German Catholic universities began fragmenting. In 1772, even before the formal suppression, the 24-year-old Weishaupt was appointed professor of canon law at Ingolstadt, a remarkable achievement for someone so young. The appointment reflected both his academic talent and the changing political dynamics that made hiring a non-Jesuit acceptable. But former Jesuits retained enormous informal influence. They dominated senior faculty positions, controlled administrative roles, and used their network to resist change. Weishaupt found himself isolated, the young outsider challenging an entrenched establishment. His lectures attracted students interested in Enlightenment ideas, which made conservative faculty suspicious. His published writings advocated for legal reforms which church authorities viewed as dangerous. His social circle included free thinkers and religious skeptics, which damaged his reputation with pious colleagues. Imagine the position: a young professor with radical ideas, surrounded by hostile colleagues, monitored by church authorities, unable to speak freely or publish openly without risking his career. This environment convinced Weishaupt that open advocacy was impossible and that secret organization was necessary. He studied how other groups operated under official disapproval. The Freemasons maintained networks across Europe despite periodic government bans. The Rosicrucians claimed ancient mystical knowledge, while operating as loose associations of occult enthusiasts. Various reading societies and intellectual clubs provided cover for discussing forbidden ideas. Weishaupt concluded that what was needed was an organization that combined Freemasonry's network structure with the Jesuits' hierarchical discipline, while avoiding both Masonic mysticism and Jesuit theology. The organization he envisioned would recruit carefully selected members committed to Enlightenment values, operate in complete secrecy to avoid persecution, use coded language and false names to protect members' identities, employ hierarchical ranks to maintain discipline and control information, infiltrate positions of influence to gradually reform society, present itself publicly as a harmless literary or philosophical society. This vision was simultaneously grandiose and naive. Grandiose because Weishaupt imagined his small discussion group eventually influencing all of European society. Naive because he underestimated how difficult secret organization actually is and how quickly authorities would discover and suppress it. But Weishaupt was convinced he'd discovered the key to revolutionary change. Not open rebellion, which brought swift repression, but secret infiltration which could transform society gradually from within. Look at the intellectual influences shaping this thinking. Rousseau's social contract theory suggested society was based on agreement rather than divine right. Voltaire's attacks on religious superstition implied reason should replace revelation. The French encyclopedists' comprehensive project to systematize human knowledge suggested Enlightenment could be organized and spread deliberately. Weishaupt absorbed these ideas, but added a conspiratorial element. Change would come not through public persuasion, but through secret coordination of enlightened individuals, placed strategically throughout society's institutions. This conspiratorial thinking wasn't unusual in 18th century radical circles. When open expression brought persecution, secret organization seemed logical. When established powers used surveillance and censorship, operating underground seemed necessary. But Weishaupt took these common practices and systemized them into an elaborate organizational scheme that would later feed conspiracy theories about the Illuminati's supposed power. By 1776, Weishaupt had developed his basic plan and recruited his first members. all students or former students who shared his frustration with Bavaria's intellectual conservatism. The founding ceremony occurred on May 1, 1776, in Ingolstadt. The initial membership was tiny, 5 people total, including Weishaupt himself. They adopted secret names drawn from classical antiquity. Weishaupt became Spartacus, positioning himself as the leader of a revolt against oppression. Members used codes for correspondence. They met in secret to discuss forbidden books and plan the organization's expansion. The goal was to attract influential recruits who could advance Enlightenment values through their professional positions. A judge could reform legal practices, a teacher could educate students in rational thinking, a bureaucrat could modernize government administration, a wealthy merchant could fund publications. Gradually, Weishaupt believed this network would grow until Enlightenment values permeated society's institutions. Religious superstition would fade. Political authority based on tradition would yield to rational governance. Individual liberty would replace hierarchical control. This vision animated Weishaupt and his small band of followers. They genuinely believed they were starting a movement that would transform European civilization. The fact that they were a handful of provincial academics, with no money, no political connections, and no realistic plan for achieving their grandiose goals, didn't deter them. Here's what's interesting. In 1776, Weishaupt's Illuminati was simultaneously more radical and less significant than later conspiracy theories suggested. More radical because their actual goals, undermining religious authority and traditional political hierarchy, were genuinely revolutionary. Less significant because their capacity to achieve anything was essentially zero. But circumstances would soon change. New recruits would bring money, aristocratic connections, and organizational sophistication that transformed the Illuminati from a discussion group into something approaching a genuine secret network with influence across German-speaking Europe. That transformation, and the paranoid reaction it would trigger, set the stage for everything that followed: the crackdown, the conspiracy theories, and the enduring mythology that still surrounds Weishaupt's name today. The intellectual revolution that seized Adam Weishaupt's generation promised that human reason could solve every problem: political, social, moral, even spiritual, if only tradition's dead hand could be lifted from society's throat. The Enlightenment of the 18th century was in many ways the first truly modern intellectual movement. It proposed that knowledge came from observation and reason rather than revelation and tradition. It suggested that society should be organized according to rational principles rather than inherited hierarchies. And it promised that human progress was possible, even inevitable, if enlightened thinking could triumph over superstition. Weishaupt absorbed these ideas voraciously during his university years. His godfather Ickstadt's library provided access to forbidden texts: Voltaire's mockery of religious dogma, Rousseau's critique of property and inequality, D'Holbach's atheistic materialism, Helvetius's utilitarian ethics. These writers offered Weishaupt a coherent alternative worldview to the Catholic theology that dominated Bavarian intellectual life. Instead of original sin, they posited natural goodness corrupted by bad institutions. Instead of divine revelation, they advocated reason and empirical observation. Instead of obedience to church and king, they suggested individual liberty and social contracts. What made these ideas dangerous wasn't just that they contradicted religious teaching. It was that they implied existing social and political arrangements had no legitimate foundation. If human reason rather than divine will should organize society, then monarchy, aristocracy, and church hierarchy all lacked justification. You see, Enlightenment philosophy wasn't just an academic matter, it was implicitly revolutionary. And conservative authorities understood this perfectly well, which is why Enlightenment texts were banned and Enlightenment advocates were monitored. Weishaupt's reading convinced him that Bavaria suffered under particularly oppressive conditions. The close alliance between the Elector and the Catholic Church created a stifling intellectual environment. Censorship prevented the publication of progressive ideas. The Jesuits' educational monopoly indoctrinated students in conservative theology, and the legal system enforced religious conformity through prosecution of heresy and blasphemy. Reform seemed impossible through normal channels. The Elector wouldn't voluntarily reduce church influence. He depended on clerical support for his authority. The church wouldn't tolerate criticism of its doctrines. The university wouldn't employ openly heterodox professors, and the public, kept ignorant by controlled education, wouldn't demand change. This analysis led Weishaupt to a conclusion that many radical intellectuals reached. Change required conspiracy. I mean, think about the logic. If open advocacy brought persecution, then advocacy must be secret. If isolated individuals were powerless, then like-minded people must coordinate. If existing institutions resisted reform, then reformers must infiltrate those institutions and change them from within. This conspiratorial approach to social change was common in 18th century radical circles, but Weishaupt systematized it more thoroughly than most. He developed elaborate theories about how secret societies could function, how members should be recruited and controlled, and how influence could be exercised without detection. His theoretical model drew on multiple sources. From the Jesuits, he took the idea of disciplined organization and strategic placement of members. From the Freemasons, he borrowed the concept of hierarchical degrees, with secret knowledge revealed progressively. From Rousseau, he adapted the idea that education could reshape human nature, and from his legal training, he understood how institutions could be manipulated through procedural knowledge. The synthesis was original, an organization that would appear to be a harmless philosophical society, while actually working to fundamentally transform society's religious, political, and social foundations. But theory required practice. Weishaupt needed to test whether his organizational ideas could actually work, whether he could recruit committed members, and whether secret coordination could produce tangible results. The first years were discouraging. Recruitment proceeded slowly. The original members were students with no money or influence. The organization operated on a shoestring, with Weishaupt covering costs from his modest professor's salary. Worse, the elaborate rituals and hierarchical structure that Weishaupt had designed proved cumbersome. New initiates had to memorize complex procedures. Communications required encoding and decoding. Maintaining secrecy while coordinating activities was logistically difficult. By 1778, 2 years after founding, the Illuminati had recruited only about 30 members, mostly students and young professionals in Bavaria. The organization's influence was essentially zero. Weishaupt's grand vision of transforming European civilization seemed ridiculous given the reality of a small discussion group with no resources. Then, Baron Adolf von Knigge joined, and everything changed. König was everything. Weishaupt wasn't. Aristocratic, wealthy, socially connected, and an experienced Freemason who understood how secret societies actually functioned. He'd been initiated into multiple Masonic orders and understood their appeal, their organizational structures, and their limitations. König saw potential in Weishaupt's Illuminati, but recognized that its current structure was amateur and ineffective. He proposed a complete reorganization, integrate the Illuminati into Freemasonry, rather than competing with it, adopt Masonic ritual forms that members would find familiar and appealing, and use existing Masonic networks to recruit influential members. Weishaupt initially resisted. He viewed Masonic mysticism as superstitious nonsense that contradicted Enlightenment rationalism. But König argued pragmatically. Most potential recruits were already Masons who valued ritual and symbolism. If the Illuminati wanted to grow, it needed to meet potential members where they were, rather than demanding they abandon familiar practices. Weishaupt reluctantly agreed, and König set about redesigning the Illuminati's structure. He created new degrees with elaborate initiation ceremonies. He wrote rituals that incorporated Masonic elements while advancing Illuminati philosophical goals. And most importantly, he used his aristocratic connections to recruit influential Masons into the Illuminati. The results were dramatic. Within 2 years, membership grew from about 30 to over 600. Illuminati lodges were established across German-speaking territories, in Munich, Frankfurt, Vienna, and dozens of smaller cities. Members included professors, lawyers, bureaucrats, merchants, and minor nobility. Look at what König accomplished. He transformed Weishaupt's provincial discussion group into a genuine network spanning much of German-speaking Europe. He brought in members with real influence, people who actually could affect policy, publish books, or advance Enlightenment ideas through their professional positions. But this success created new problems. As membership grew and diversified, maintaining ideological coherence became difficult. Some members joined seeking mystical knowledge, not political radicalism. Some wanted intellectual community, not revolutionary conspiracy. Some were attracted by the social networking opportunities that secret society membership provided. Weishaupt grew frustrated with members who treated the Illuminati as merely another social club. He wanted committed revolutionaries working to transform society. Koenig wanted an inclusive organization that attracted diverse members and maintained harmonious relationships with Freemasonry. This fundamental disagreement about the organization's purpose would eventually destroy the partnership between Weishaupt and Koenig. But in the early 1780s, the Illuminati was experiencing rapid growth and increasing influence. Members were publishing Enlightenment texts, reforming university curricula, and advocating for legal changes, all while maintaining the Illuminati connection secret. The organization appeared to be achieving exactly what Weishaupt had envisioned: gradual transformation of society through coordinated action by enlightened individuals. But this very success made the Illuminati a target. Conservative authorities noticed that certain individuals seemed to be coordinating in support of progressive causes. Rumors circulated about a secret society advancing radical ideas, and paranoid speculation about the Illuminati's true goals and power began spreading. Here's what's critical to understand. The Illuminati, at its peak in the early 1780s, was simultaneously more influential than Weishaupt had initially imagined, and less powerful than paranoid conservatives feared. More influential because it actually had hundreds of members in positions where they could publish, teach, and advocate for reform. Less powerful because the organization remained loose, ideologically divided, and lacking the centralized control that Weishaupt wanted. The Illuminati couldn't orchestrate revolutions or control governments. It was a network of like-minded individuals sharing information and coordinating advocacy. But in the paranoid imagination of conservative authorities, any secret coordination appeared a sinister conspiracy requiring suppression. That suppression was coming, and when it arrived, it would scatter the organization, drive Weishaupt into exile, and paradoxically transform the Illuminati from a real but limited network into an immortal conspiracy theory. The organizational structure Adam Weishaupt designed for the Illuminati reveals his true genius, not as a revolutionary leader or political strategist, but as a systems designer creating mechanisms for control, coordination, and ideological conformity. Weishaupt's Illuminati operated through a complex hierarchical structure with multiple degrees, each revealing progressively more of the organization's true nature and goals. This gradual revelation served multiple purposes. It allowed recruitment of members who might not initially embrace the organization's radical objectives. It maintained secrecy by limiting each member's knowledge to their current rank, and it created loyalty through the investment of time and effort required to advance. The structure Weishaupt developed went through several iterations, but the refined version that emerged after Koenig's reorganization included three main classes, each subdivided into degrees. The nursery class consisted of preparatory, novice, minival, and Illuminatus minor degrees. These introductory ranks attracted new members through intellectual appeal, while concealing the organization's deeper political objectives. New recruits, called novices, were told the Illuminati existed to promote Enlightenment learning and moral improvement. They attended meetings where philosophical texts were discussed, essays on ethical topics were presented, and members engaged in intellectual debate, nothing overtly revolutionary or threatening. The minival degree introduced members to symbolic ritual and required them to submit regular reports on their activities, readings, and observations. These reports served dual purposes. They encouraged self-reflection and provided the organization's leadership with information about members' development and reliability. You see, Weishaupt was building a surveillance system where members monitored themselves and each other, creating detailed records that leadership could use to evaluate trustworthiness and suitability for advancement. The Illuminatus minor degree marked entrance into the true Illuminati. Members learned the organization's real goals, undermining religious superstition and arbitrary political authority to create a rational society governed by enlightened principles. But even here, information was revealed carefully. Members learned objectives without learning methods. They understood the Illuminati opposed clerical power without knowing specific plans for achieving that opposition. The Masonic class incorporated symbolic Freemasonry degrees and Scottish novice and Scottish knight degrees. This class existed primarily because of Knigge's influence and served to attract Freemasons into the Illuminati. The integration with Freemasonry was strategic brilliance. Rather than competing with an established organization with thousands of members, the Illuminati infiltrated it, presenting itself as higher knowledge accessible only to worthy Masons. Freemasons who joined the Illuminati believed they were advancing to deeper mysteries beyond conventional Masonic teaching. In reality, they were being gradually exposed to Weishaupt's Enlightenment radicalism, with Masonic rituals serving as appealing packaging for philosophical content that might otherwise repel conservative members. I mean, think about the sophistication. Use existing organizational structures rather than building from scratch. Appeal to people's desire for exclusive knowledge and advancement, and gradually shift their thinking through carefully designed educational programs. The Mysteries class consisted of priest, prince or regent, and magus degrees. These highest ranks contained the Illuminati's inner circle, members who understood the organization's full scope and shared responsibility for directing it. Priests were the primary educators, responsible for developing philosophical content and guiding lower-degree members' intellectual development. Regents managed the organization's expansion into new territories. And the magus degree, which Weishaupt himself claimed, represented absolute mastery of Illuminati philosophy and complete authority over organizational direction. This hierarchical structure mirrored the Jesuit organization that Weishaupt had been raised in and claimed to oppose. The parallels are striking. Both used hierarchical ranks with progressive revelation of knowledge. Both required absolute obedience from members to superiors. Both emphasized intellectual formation and education. Both aimed to influence society through strategic placement of members. Both operated with significant secrecy regarding internal operations. The difference was content, not structure. Jesuits advanced Catholic theology and papal authority. The Illuminati advanced Enlightenment philosophy and reason. But the organizational methods were virtually identical. Weishaupt was never comfortable acknowledging this parallel. He insisted the Illuminati's structure arose naturally from rational principles, not from copying Catholic models. But the similarities were too obvious to ignore, and critics would later point to them as evidence that Weishaupt had simply created a secular version of the organization he claimed to oppose. The elaborate structure required extensive written documentation. Weishaupt and Knigge produced detailed manuals explaining each degree's rituals, philosophical content, and behavioral expectations. Members were required to maintain written records of their activities and submit regular reports to superiors. This paper trail would prove disastrous when Bavarian authorities raided Illuminati members' homes and seized documents. But in the early 1780s, the documentation seemed necessary for maintaining coordination across geographically dispersed lodges. Communications used coded language and assumed names to protect members' identities. Weishaupt was Spartacus. Knigge was Philo. Cities were referred to by classical names. Munich became Athens. Vienna became Rome. Frankfurt became Thebes. Letters were written in code or invisible ink. Members memorized recognition signals for identifying fellow Illuminati. Secret meeting locations were established in each city where the organization operated. Look at the operational security. It was simultaneously sophisticated and amateurish. Sophisticated because the methods, codes, assumed names, secret meetings provided real protection against casual discovery. Amateurish because professional security services had little difficulty penetrating the organization once they began investigating systematically. The financial structure was equally elaborate. Members paid dues based on their wealth. Higher ranks paid more, with the proceeds funding organizational operations. Wealthy members were expected to make additional contributions to support publication projects, recruit new members, or assist poorer members financially. Weishaupt envisioned the Illuminati eventually becoming self-sustaining through member contributions, but the organization never achieved financial independence. Recruitment never grew fast enough or attracted enough wealthy members to generate surplus revenue, and many members were students or young professionals with limited resources. The result was chronic underfunding, Publications were delayed for lack of money. Promising expansion opportunities couldn't be pursued because no one could finance them. And Weishaupt himself remained perpetually short of cash, unable to leave his professorship because the Illuminati couldn't pay him a salary. This financial weakness limited what the organization could accomplish. Genuine political influence requires money to fund publications, support political candidates, bribe officials, or sustain operations over time. The Illuminati had ambitions that required significant resources, but an actual budget that barely covered basic operations. But what the Illuminati lacked in money, it partially compensated for through information. The reporting system that Weishaupt developed created a massive intelligence network where members documented local conditions, identified potential recruits, and monitored political developments. This information flowed to leadership, who could coordinate responses across multiple locations. If one city's government was preparing repressive measures, other cities' members could be warned. If a promising recruit appeared in one location, members in other locations could provide background information. The system turned every member into an intelligence agent and every lodge into an information processing center. At its peak, the Illuminati possessed detailed knowledge about conditions across much of German-speaking Europe, knowledge that would have been valuable if the organization had survived long enough to use it systematically. Here's what's interesting. The structure Weishaupt designed was brilliant for an organization that intended to operate for decades or centuries. The hierarchical degrees, the educational programs, the information systems, all made sense for a long-term project to gradually transform society. But the structure was terrible for an organization that needed to survive government suppression. The paper trail made prosecution easy. The hierarchical structure meant capturing a few leaders could destroy coordination, and the secrecy that protected against casual discovery meant members couldn't mount public defense when authorities attacked. Weishaupt had designed an organization for slow revolution, not for resistance against determined suppression. When the crackdown came, the elaborate structure collapsed almost immediately, proving that secret organization, however sophisticated, cannot survive when governments commit substantial resources to destruction. But before that collapse, the Illuminati at its peak represented something genuinely novel, a rationalist secret society explicitly dedicated to Enlightenment values, operating across multiple territories and attempting to influence society through coordinated action by ideologically committed members. The influence was real but limited, the power was exaggerated but not entirely imaginary, and the threat, from the perspective of conservative authorities, was significant enough to justify forceful response. By 1784, the Illuminati had recruited approximately 2,000 members across German-speaking Europe, a remarkable achievement for an organization that had started 8 years earlier with 5 obscure academics in Bavaria. The membership roster read like a directory of German intellectual and cultural life. Writers, philosophers, professors, lawyers, bureaucrats, and minor nobles had joined, drawn by the promise of intellectual community and the allure of exclusive knowledge. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, Germany's most celebrated writer, was a member. Initiated in 1783, Johann Gottfried Herder, the influential philosopher and theologian, joined the same year. Duke Ernest II of Saxe-Gotha-Altenburg provided aristocratic credibility and financial support. Numerous university professors across Germany brought academic legitimacy. This membership gave the Illuminati genuine influence in specific domains. Members could publish books advancing Enlightenment ideas, reform university curricula to emphasize reason over tradition, and advocate for legal changes through their professional positions. But here's what the membership list also reveals. Almost no one with direct political power joined. No ruling princes, no senior government ministers, no military commanders or merchants who could fund large-scale operations. The Illuminati attracted intellectuals and cultural figures, people who shaped ideas, but not people who directly wielded state power or controlled significant capital. This limitation meant that whatever influence the organization exercised had to work through persuasion and intellectual formation, rather than through direct command of resources or authority. You see, this was the fundamental constraint on Illuminati power. They could write books that influenced thinking over time. They couldn't command armies or allocate government budgets. They could recruit students who might eventually reach influential positions. They couldn't install themselves immediately in control of state apparatus. Weishaupt understood this limitation and designed the Illuminati as a long-term project. He envisioned decades of patient work, gradually placing members in influential positions, slowly shifting cultural and intellectual norms, eventually accumulating enough influence to effect meaningful political change. But conservative authorities didn't see patient gradualism. They saw revolutionary conspiracy, and scattered evidence of Illuminati activities seemed to confirm their worst fears about what the organization was planning. In 1783, a collection of letters between Illuminati members was intercepted, revealing discussions about infiltrating Masonic lodges, placing members in government positions, and opposing clerical influence. The letters were real. The discussions had actually occurred, and they provided documentary evidence that the Illuminati had organized to pursue political objectives. Conservative publicists seized on these documents and circulated them widely, portraying the Illuminati as a revolutionary conspiracy threatening all established authority. The actual content of the letters, mostly discussion of long-term aspirations rather than concrete plans, was exaggerated into proof of imminent revolutionary action. Pamphlets appeared warning about Illuminati plots. Sermons denounced the organization as satanic. Government officials who'd previously ignored rumors about secret societies began investigating seriously. I mean, look at what was happening. The Illuminati's actual activities, recruiting members, discussing Enlightenment philosophy, advocating for gradual reform, were being interpreted through a paranoid lens that transformed every action into evidence of sinister conspiracy. This paranoid interpretation wasn't entirely unreasonable from the perspective of 18th century conservatives. Secret organization was inherently suspect. Advocacy for undermining religious authority threatened social order, and coordination across multiple territories suggested what a small academic society should possess. The fact that the Illuminati's actual capabilities fell far short of paranoid imaginings didn't matter. The organization's secrecy, its stated opposition to clerical power, and the intercepted correspondence all combined to make it appear as a genuine threat requiring government response. The response began in 1784, when Elector Karl Theodor of Bavaria issued an edict banning all secret societies not explicitly approved by the state. The edict was aimed directly at the Illuminati, though it also affected other organizations, including Freemasons and Rosicrucians. The ban was enforced seriously. Police raided suspected Illuminati meeting places. Members' homes were searched and documents seized. Anyone identified as an Illuminati member faced potential prosecution and definitely faced professional consequences. University professors who were members risked dismissal. Government bureaucrats faced loss of positions. Even aristocratic members found their reputations damaged and their influence reduced. Weishaupt himself was fired from his professorship at Ingolstadt and forced to flee Bavaria to avoid prosecution. He found refuge with Duke Ernest of Saxe-Gotha, one of the Illuminati's aristocratic members, who provided protection and a small pension. The crackdown scattered the organization almost immediately. Without Weishaupt's leadership, and with members afraid of prosecution, coordination collapsed. Lodges stopped meeting. Communications ceased. The elaborate hierarchical structure that had seemed so impressive dissolved in months. By 1787, just 3 years after the ban, the Illuminati had effectively ceased to exist as a functioning organization. Some former members maintained personal friendships and continued advocating for Enlightenment values, but the coordinated network that had briefly spanned German-speaking Europe was gone. Here's what's critical. The Bavarian government's crackdown succeeded completely in destroying the organization. The Illuminati as a functioning secret society lasted barely 9 years, 1776 to 1785. Everything after was either individual former members acting independently or conspiracy theorists imagining continued secret operation. But the crackdown also created the conditions for the conspiracy theories that would follow. By seizing documents and publishing them as evidence of revolutionary plotting, the Bavarian government provided source material for anyone wanting to claim the Illuminati had been more powerful and dangerous than it actually was. The published documents showed that the Illuminati had discussed long-term goals like reducing clerical influence, reforming education, and gradually changing political structures. But these discussions were aspirational, statements of what members hoped to eventually achieve, not descriptions of actual capabilities or concrete plans. Conservative publicists took these aspirational statements as proof that the Illuminati had possessed the power to implement them. This logical leap, from they wanted to do X to they were capable of doing X, would characterize anti-Illuminati literature for the next 2 centuries. The relationship between the historical Illuminati and later revolutionary movements became a particular focus of conspiracy theorizing. The organization had existed from 1776 to 1785. The French Revolution began in 1789, 4 years after the Illuminati's suppression. Could the Illuminati have influenced the French Revolution despite being destroyed years earlier? Conservative writers insisted yes, arguing that the organization had merely gone deeper underground after the Bavarian crackdown and continued operating secretly. This claim was implausible for several reasons. First, the Illuminati had been strongest in German-speaking territories, not France. Second, the organization's leadership had been scattered and its coordination destroyed. Third, the French Revolution emerged from specifically French political and economic conditions that had nothing to do with Bavarian secret societies. But the claim was appealing because it offered a simple explanation for bewildering events. The French Revolution was traumatic for European conservatives. It overthrew monarchy, attacked the church, and executed thousands. Having a conspiracy theory to explain this catastrophe, secret society caused it, was psychologically comforting even if factually absurd. Look at the pattern that was emerging. Actual historical events. Illuminati existed, recruited members, discussed Enlightenment ideas, plus paranoid interpretation. Secret society must still exist if not discovered, plus attribution of later events to supposed conspiracy. French Revolution must have been Illuminati plot. Equal enduring conspiracy theory disconnected from reality. This pattern would repeat for over 2 centuries. Every major political or economic disruption would be attributed to Illuminati influence by conspiracy theorists, who insisted the organization had never truly been destroyed, but merely became more secretive. The irony is that the actual historical Illuminati, a small network of intellectuals discussing Enlightenment philosophy, was far less powerful than conspiracy theorists claimed, but also genuinely existed in ways that made completely dismissing all connections to radicalism impossible. The organization did recruit members committed to undermining traditional authority. It did coordinate activities across multiple territories. It did discuss long-term goals that would have fundamentally transformed European society if achieved, but it never had the resources, the membership, or the operational sophistication to actually threaten established governments. It was a discussion group with pretensions to revolutionary significance, not an actual revolutionary organization with capacity to overthrow states. This gap between aspiration and capability would be lost in conspiracy theories that credited the Illuminati with causing every revolutionary upheaval for the next 250 years. The systematic destruction of the Illuminati by Bavarian authorities in 1784 to 1787 provides a case study in how 18th century states dealt with perceived subversion and how that suppression paradoxically amplified the influence of the organization it destroyed. The initial ban in June 1784 was just the beginning. Elector Karl Theodor, convinced by conservative advisors that the Illuminati represented a genuine threat, ordered comprehensive investigation and prosecution of everyone connected to the organization. Special commissions were established to examine seized documents and identify members. Police interrogated suspects, offering leniency to those who cooperated by naming other members. Spies were recruited to infiltrate any remaining Illuminati activities and report back to authorities. The investigation produced thousands of pages of documentation, seized correspondence, membership lists, ritual manuals, and financial records. This material was selectively published by the Bavarian government to justify the crackdown and warn other German states about the Illuminati threat. These publications, particularly the collection titled Some Original Writings of the Order of the Illuminati, became primary sources for all subsequent writing about the organization. But they presented a highly biased picture, emphasizing anything that made the Illuminati appear threatening while ignoring context and exaggerating significance. For example, letters discussing long-term aspirations to reduce clerical influence were presented as evidence of immediate plots to overthrow religion. Philosophical discussions about ideal forms of government were treated as concrete revolutionary planning, and coded language that was merely security precaution was interpreted as proof of sinister secrecy. You see, the Bavarian government had political incentives to exaggerate the Illuminati threat. Karl Theodor was a relatively weak ruler who depended heavily on church support. Demonstrating his commitment to defending religious authority against Enlightenment radicalism strengthened his relationship with conservative Catholic officials. Moreover, the crackdown allowed Karl Theodor to appear decisive and protective of social order, valuable political capital for a ruler who'd been criticized as ineffectual. The Illuminati suppression became evidence of strong leadership defending Bavaria against revolutionary conspiracy. But the suppression also revealed the limits of the Illuminati's actual power. When serious state resources were directed at destroying the organization, it collapsed almost immediately. Members scrambled to destroy incriminating documents, lodges disbanded, networks fractured, and within months, the coordinated organization ceased to exist. This rapid collapse demonstrated that the Illuminati had never possessed the institutional strength or operational security to resist determined government action. All the elaborate hierarchies, codes, and secret rituals couldn't protect against police raids and interrogations backed by state authority. Weishaupt's personal fate illustrated the organization's weakness. He was fired from his professorship and forced to flee Bavaria with essentially nothing: no money, no position, no ability to continue organizational work. The man who'd envisioned leading a movement to transform European civilization ended up as a pensioner dependent on aristocratic charity. He found refuge with Duke Ernest of Saxe-Gotha, who provided a small stipend and protection from prosecution. But this refuge came with constraints. Weishaupt couldn't publicly defend the Illuminati or advocate for its ideas without jeopardizing his protector's reputation. He was essentially under house arrest, albeit comfortable house arrest. From this exile, Weishaupt wrote prolifically, publishing books defending the Illuminati, attacking his critics, and elaborating his philosophical views. These writings provide the most detailed account of what Weishaupt actually believed and what he'd intended the Illuminati to accomplish. What emerges from these writings is a picture far different from later conspiracy theories. Weishaupt presented the Illuminati as an educational project designed to spread Enlightenment values, not as a revolutionary conspiracy aiming to violently overthrow governments. He acknowledged the organization had discussed undermining clerical influence, but insisted this meant intellectual opposition to superstition, not violent persecution of religious believers. He confirmed the Illuminati had recruited members in positions of influence, but claimed this was to gradually reform institutions, not to seize control through conspiracy. Read Weishaupt's own explanations, and you see someone who viewed himself as an educator and philosopher, not a revolutionary conspirator. He genuinely believed that spreading Enlightenment values through education would naturally lead to social improvement without requiring violent upheaval. But conservative critics weren't interested in Weishaupt's self-defense. They had their narrative. The Illuminati was revolutionary conspiracy threatening all established order, and nothing Weishaupt wrote could shake their conviction. The most influential anti-Illuminati text was Proofs of a Conspiracy by John Robison, published in 1797. Robison was a Scottish scientist and Freemason who'd encountered Illuminati influence in German Masonic lodges and concluded that the organization had caused the French Revolution. His book argued that the Illuminati had survived the Bavarian crackdown, spread across Europe, infiltrated Freemasonry completely, and orchestrated the French Revolution to destroy monarchy and religion. This conspiracy, Robison claimed, continued operating and threatened Britain and all of European civilization. Robison's evidence was thin, mostly second-hand reports and misinterpreted documents. His logic was circular. Any revolutionary activity anywhere was attributed to Illuminati influence, and the lack of direct evidence was treated as proof of how effectively secret the conspiracy had become. But the book was enormously influential, particularly in English-speaking countries. It established the template for all subsequent Illuminati conspiracy theories. Secret organization survives suppression, infiltrates other organizations, causes revolutionary upheavals, and continues operating despite lack of visible evidence. A similar book appeared in France the same year, Memoirs Illustrating the History of Jacobinism by Augustin Barriol, a Jesuit priest who had fled France during the Revolution. Barriol's 4-volume work blamed the revolution on a conspiracy involving philosophers, Freemasons, and the Illuminati. Like Robison, Barriol attributed revolutionary events to secret coordination rather than to social and economic conditions that actually motivated the French Revolution. And like Robison, Barriol's evidence consisted mainly of connecting dots in ways that confirmed his pre-existing conviction that Enlightenment philosophy led inevitably to violent revolution. Look at what these books accomplished. They transformed the Illuminati from a defunct Bavarian organization into an immortal conspiracy responsible for every political upheaval. The actual historical Illuminati became irrelevant to the mythology that emerged. Weishaupt himself, still alive and writing in Gotha, could document that the organization had been destroyed and that he had no contact with revolutionary movements. But conspiracy theorists simply dismissed his denials as either lies or proof that he'd been cut off from the secret operations that continued without him. The logic was unfalsifiable. Any evidence against the conspiracy theory was explained away as disinformation or as proof the conspiracy was cleverer than investigators realized. By 1800, the Illuminati mythology had become established in conservative circles. The organization was blamed for the French Revolution and subsequent terror, revolutionary movements across Europe, attacks on monarchy and aristocracy, undermining of religious authority, spread of Enlightenment philosophy, any secret society activity anywhere. None of these attributions were supported by solid evidence. All relied on circumstantial connections, speculative reasoning, and assumptions that secret coordination must explain events that actually resulted from much more prosaic causes. But the mythology served important psychological and political functions for conservatives traumatized by the French Revolution. It provided simple explanation for bewildering events, clear villains to blame rather than complex social forces, justification for suppressing Enlightenment ideas, evidence that traditional authority was right to resist change, warning of what happened when secret societies were tolerated. The irony was that the actual Illuminati had been destroyed precisely because governments had taken it seriously as a threat and had committed resources to suppression. The mythology of the immortal Illuminati emerged from the success of the crackdown, not from the organization's survival. Weishaupt lived until 1830, spending his final decades writing philosophy that almost nobody read. He died in obscurity, virtually forgotten except by a small circle of acquaintances. His obituary was brief, and his funeral attracted minimal attention. But the mythology he'd inadvertently created through founding the Illuminati would long outlive him, growing stronger with each passing decade as new conspiracy theorists added layers to the story. The transformation of the Illuminati from a defunct Bavarian discussion group into an immortal global conspiracy happened not because of anything Weishaupt did, but because conspiracy theories filled psychological needs that facts couldn't satisfy. By the early 1800s, the basic narrative was established. The Illuminati had been founded with revolutionary goals, had been suppressed by authorities, but had survived by going deeper underground and infiltrating other organizations, particularly Freemasonry. This narrative allowed conservatives to explain the French Revolution without confronting the actual causes: fiscal crisis, social inequality, political incompetence, and genuine popular grievances. Instead of grappling with these complex factors, they could simply point to secret conspiracy and blame everything on Illuminati manipulation. The narrative also spread beyond Europe. In the United States, Federalists warning against Jeffersonian democracy claimed that the Democratic Republican Party was influenced by Illuminati ideas imported from France. New England clergy preached sermons warning that the Illuminati aimed to destroy Christianity and establish atheistic government. These American conspiracy theories were particularly absurd, given that the US had minimal connections to German secret societies, and that Jefferson's political philosophy emerged from Anglo-American traditions rather than Bavarian conspiracies. But the absurdity didn't prevent the theories from spreading among Federalists, who needed to explain why Americans might support democratic ideas they opposed. What's interesting is how the conspiracy theory evolved to remain relevant as circumstances changed. In the 1790s, the Illuminati was blamed for the French Revolution. In the 1800s, it was blamed for Republican and Democratic movements. In the 1900s, it would be blamed for communism, fascism, and international finance. The conspiracy theory was infinitely adaptable because it was unfalsifiable. Any political development that frightened conservatives could be attributed to Illuminati influence. Any lack of evidence was explained as proof of how effectively secret the conspiracy had become. You see, this adaptability is characteristic of successful conspiracy theories. They're constructed so that disconfirming evidence is impossible. Everything that happens confirms the theory, and nothing can disprove it. By the mid-1800s, anti-Illuminati hysteria had faded in educated circles. Historians had documented that the organization had been destroyed in the 1780s. Weishaupt's own writings showed he'd lived in powerless exile, and the passage of time made claims about ongoing Illuminati influence increasingly implausible. But the conspiracy theory didn't die. It just migrated to different contexts and merged with other conspiracy theories, particularly anti-Semitic ones. The merger of Illuminati conspiracy theories with anti-Semitism happened gradually through the 19th century. Some anti-Illuminati writers had noted that Weishaupt was of Jewish ancestry, though he was raised Catholic and showed no connection to Jewish identity. This detail was seized on by anti-Semitic propagandists who argued that the Illuminati was actually a Jewish conspiracy to undermine Christian civilization. This claim was historically nonsensical. The Illuminati had few, if any, Jewish members. Weishaupt's Jewish ancestry was distant, and the organization's goals had nothing to do with Jewish interests. But anti-Semitic conspiracy theorists weren't concerned with accuracy. They merged Illuminati mythology with existing anti-Semitic tropes about Jewish financial power, creating a hybrid conspiracy theory where secretive Jews used organizations like the Illuminati to control banking and manipulate world events. I mean, look at the logic. Take an organization, Illuminati, that actually existed but had no financial power, plus merge with a conspiracy theory, Jewish banking control, that has no factual basis, plus claim they're the same thing equals a super conspiracy that combines the appeal of both narratives. This merger would prove durable and deadly. Through the late 1800s and early 1900s, anti-Semitic literature increasingly presented the Illuminati and Jewish banking as interconnected conspiracies. The Protocols of the Elders of Zion, a fabricated anti-Semitic text purporting to document Jewish plans for world domination, was sometimes attributed to Illuminati origins. These anti-Semitic conspiracy theories would eventually contribute to the Holocaust. Nazi propaganda regularly claimed that Jews were using secret organizations to control finance and manipulate politics. The Illuminati was frequently mentioned as one of these organizations, despite having no connection to Jewish people or banking. Here's what's particularly perverse. The historical Illuminati had been founded by someone of partial Jewish ancestry, but who identified as Catholic, had advocated for Enlightenment universalism that opposed traditional Jewish identity, had attracted almost no Jewish members, and had operated for less than a decade over 150 years earlier. Yet anti-Semitic propagandists presented it as ongoing Jewish conspiracy. The 20th century saw Illuminati conspiracy theories proliferate across the political spectrum. Right-wing conspiracists blamed the Illuminati for communism, claiming that secret societies had orchestrated the Russian Revolution. Left-wing conspiracists blamed the Illuminati for capitalism, claiming that secret banking elites controlled markets. Both claims were false, but both appealed to people seeking simple explanations for complex economic and political systems they didn't understand and couldn't control. The John Birch Society, an American anti-communist organization founded in 1958, promoted extensive Illuminati conspiracy theories. They claimed that a secret conspiracy involving the Illuminati, international bankers, and communist agents was working to establish world government and destroy American sovereignty. This conspiracy theory appealed to conservatives frightened by social change, civil rights movement, increasing secularization, declining traditional authority. The Illuminati provided a villain to blame for all these unwelcome developments. New Age and occult movements took the conspiracy theories in different directions. Some claimed the Illuminati possessed ancient mystical knowledge and worked with extraterrestrials. Others argued the organization guarded secrets about human origins or hidden history. These theories had even less connection to the historical Illuminati than the political versions. By the late 20th century, Illuminati had become a catch-all term for any supposed secret elite controlling world events. The specific content of what the Illuminati supposedly did or believed varied wildly between conspiracy theorists, but all versions shared the basic premise: small secret group possesses enormous hidden power. The internet age amplified Illuminati conspiracy theories exponentially. YouTube videos claiming to expose Illuminati control of music industry, film industry, and banking proliferated. Message boards analyzed celebrity photos for supposed Illuminati symbols. Social media spread conspiracy content further and faster than ever before. Look at what happened. An organization that existed for 9 years in 18th century Bavaria has become the most famous secret society in history, credited with controlling everything from the French Revolution to the Federal Reserve to Beyoncé's career. The tragedy is that this mythology has obscured what the historical Illuminati actually was and what it represented. The real organization was a fascinating case study in Enlightenment radicalism, secret society organization, and the tensions between intellectual aspiration and political reality. But that historical reality has been buried under layers of conspiracy theories that tell us more about the fears and anxieties of the people promoting them than about anything Weishaupt and his colleagues actually did. The claim that Adam Weishaupt, or the Illuminati, controlled banking systems is perhaps the most persistent and most baseless element of the conspiracy theories surrounding the organization. Here's the reality. Weishaupt never had money. He lived on a professor's modest salary, struggled to fund the Illuminati's basic operations, and spent his final decades dependent on aristocratic charity. He had no involvement in banking, no financial expertise, and no connections to the financial institutions of his time. The historical Illuminati recruited primarily intellectuals, writers, and minor officials, not bankers or merchants. The organization's membership lists, which were seized by Bavarian authorities and are available to historians, show no significant representation from the financial sector. Yet conspiracy theories persist in claiming that the Illuminati controls global banking. Where did this completely fictional narrative come from? The answer involves the merger of several distinct conspiracy theories, none of which have factual foundation, but which combine to create a super-conspiracy that has proven almost impossible to debunk. The first element was anti-Semitic conspiracy theories about Jewish control of banking. These theories, which emerged in the 19th century, claimed that Jewish banking families like the Rothschilds manipulated governments through control of finance. These theories were based on distortions and fabrications. While it's true that some Jewish families operated successful banks in the 1800s, they didn't control all banking, and they didn't manipulate governments through sinister conspiracy. They were businessmen operating in a field where they faced less discrimination than in other professions. But anti-Semitic propagandists weren't interested in accurate history. They created elaborate mythology about Jewish banking conspiracy, then looked for ways to connect this to other conspiracy theories. You see, conspiracy theorists love connecting different theories into mega-conspiracies. It makes the theory seem more plausible. All these different pieces of evidence point to the same conclusion, even though the individual pieces are themselves unsupported. The second element was confusion about the Rothschild family's actual history. Mayer Amschel Rothschild, who founded the banking dynasty, was born in 1744, roughly contemporaneous with Weishaupt. His sons expanded the bank across Europe in the late 1700s and early 1800s, roughly when conspiracy theories about the Illuminati were emerging. This chronological overlap allowed conspiracy theorists to claim connections where none existed. Weishaupt founded the Illuminati in 1776. The Rothschilds expanded their banking empire around the same time. Therefore, they must have been working together. The logic is absurd, but it's how conspiracy theories operate. Temporal proximity is treated as evidence of causation. The fact that two things happened at roughly the same time is taken as proof they're connected. The third element was legitimate criticism of central banking and modern financial systems. Many people correctly recognized that banking systems concentrated power, that government-backed central banks had enormous influence, and that financial elites often exercised political power. These were legitimate observations about how financial systems actually work. But conspiracy theorists took these real concerns and grafted them onto Illuminati mythology, claiming that secret societies controlled the banks rather than acknowledging the more prosaic reality that financial systems concentrated power through legal structures and economic mechanisms. I mean, think about the psychological appeal. The modern financial system is complex and difficult to understand. Monetary policy, fractional reserve banking, bond markets. These are technical topics that require study to comprehend. It's much easier to believe secret society controls everything than to actually learn how financial systems work. The conspiracy theory provides simple explanation for complex phenomena. The fourth element was conflation of different organizations and individuals into a single conspiracy. The Illuminati, the Freemasons, the Rothschilds, the Bilderberg Group, the Council on Foreign Relations. Conspiracy theorists claimed all these were connected or were different names for the same conspiracy. This conflation is logically incoherent. These are different organizations, founded at different times, with different purposes and membership. But conspiracy theorists ignored these differences and claimed they were all part of one mega conspiracy. The Federal Reserve became a particular focus of Illuminati banking conspiracy theories. When the Federal Reserve was created in 1913 as the United States Central Bank, conspiracy theorists immediately claimed it was an Illuminati plot. The reality was far more mundane. The Federal Reserve was created through normal legislative process to address genuine problems with the U.S. banking system. It was designed by economists and bankers, debated in Congress, and signed into law by President Wilson. Its creation had nothing to do with 18th century Bavarian secret societies, but conspiracy theorists insisted that the Illuminati had secretly orchestrated the Federal Reserve's creation to control American finance. This claim requires believing that an organization destroyed in the 1780s somehow survived in complete secrecy for 130 years, then successfully manipulated the U.S. political system into creating a central bank, all without leaving any documentary evidence. The claim is so implausible that it's difficult to understand how anyone believes it, yet millions do, because the alternative, learning how the Federal Reserve actually works and why it was created, requires more intellectual effort than believing in simple conspiracy. Look at the pattern across all these financial conspiracy theories. Take real financial institutions, banks, central banks, etc., plus attribute their creation to secret conspiracy rather than to actual documented historical processes. Plus claim connection to Illuminati despite zero evidence plus present lack of evidence as proof of how secret the conspiracy is equals unfalsifiable conspiracy theory. The cryptocurrency community has added new layers to Illuminati banking conspiracy theories. Some crypto enthusiasts claim that Bitcoin was created to overthrow Illuminati control of banking. Others claim that cryptocurrency is itself an Illuminati plot to establish digital currency control. These contradictory theories coexist because conspiracy thinking isn't constrained by logical consistency. The important thing is having a narrative that explains why the financial system feels confusing and threatening, not whether the narrative is actually true. What's lost in all these conspiracy theories is engagement with how financial systems actually work and how they could be reformed to serve public interest better. Instead of analyzing banking regulation, monetary policy, or financial oversight, conspiracy theorists chase imaginary secret societies. This is politically convenient for actual financial elites. While conspiracy theorists are obsessing about Illuminati symbols on currency, real financial power is exercised through boring mechanisms like regulatory capture, lobbying, and complex financial instruments that require expertise to understand. The conspiracy theories distract from real accountability. Why demand better banking regulation when you can blame everything on secret societies? Why organize for financial reform when the problem is supposedly an immortal conspiracy that controls everything? Here's the fundamental deception of Illuminati banking conspiracy theories. They claim to be challenging elite power while actually making it harder to challenge that power effectively. They redirect energy from practical reform to useless conspiracy mongering. If you want to understand why banking systems concentrate wealth and power, you need to study economics, finance, and regulatory policy. If you want to reform those systems, You need to organize political movements and advocate for specific policy changes. Blaming the Illuminati accomplishes nothing except making you feel like you understand what's happening when you actually don't. The Illuminati mythology has become more powerful and more widespread in the 21st century than at any point in history, a testament to the internet's ability to amplify conspiracy theories and to humans' apparently limitless appetite for secret society narratives. Today, Illuminati appears in hip-hop lyrics, reality TV shows, and social media discussions millions of times daily. Teenagers analyze celebrity photos for supposed Illuminati hand gestures. YouTube videos claiming to expose Illuminati control of the music industry accumulate tens of millions of views. The conspiracy theory has fully entered popular culture in ways that would have astonished Weishaupt. This cultural saturation has strange effects. Many people who reference the Illuminati don't actually believe in the conspiracy theory. They're using it ironically as a meme or as cultural shorthand. But this ironic usage coexists with genuine belief by millions who are convinced the Illuminati is real and controls world events. The modern Illuminati mythology bears almost no resemblance to the historical organization. Conspiracy theorists claim the Illuminati controls the music industry and uses entertainment to manipulate masses, operates through symbols like the pyramid and all-seeing eye, requires celebrities to participate in secret rituals, works to establish a new world order of global government, uses technology for mass surveillance and population control, coordinates with extraterrestrials. In some versions, none of this has any connection to what Weishaupt's organization actually was or did. The historical Illuminati never mentioned music industry control, never used pyramids as symbols, never conducted the rituals attributed to them, and never advocated for global government. But conspiracy theories don't need historical accuracy. They need psychological plausibility. And the modern Illuminati mythology provides something that many people desperately want: simple explanation for a complex, often bewildering world. You see, contemporary society is genuinely difficult to understand. Technology changes rapidly. Economic systems are opaque. Political processes are complex. Cultural change is disorienting. Many people feel powerless and confused. The Illuminati conspiracy theory offers clarity. You feel confused because secret society is deliberately manipulating everything to keep you confused. You feel powerless because they control everything. Nothing is random. It's all according to their plan. It's better to believe that malevolent conspiracy controls everything than to accept that nobody's really in control and that much of what happens results from emergent complexity, unintended consequences, and random chance. I mean, think about which is more frightening. Secret evil group controls world, or nobody's in control and systems are too complex for anyone to fully manage. For many people, the first option is less existentially terrifying. The celebrity element of modern Illuminati theories deserves special attention. Conspiracy theorists obsessively analyze celebrity behavior for supposed Illuminati connections, hand gestures, clothing choices, music video symbolism. Jay-Z's use of a triangle hand gesture is interpreted as Illuminati symbol. Beyoncé's Super Bowl performance is analyzed for hidden messages. Katy Perry's music videos are dissected for occult imagery. On and on, with every celebrity action potentially revealing Illuminati connection. This obsession says more about celebrity culture than about actual secret societies. We've created a society where celebrities are enormously wealthy and influential, far more so than their talents or contributions justify. This creates cognitive dissonance that conspiracy theories resolve. How did these people become so successful? Must be because they joined secret society and made a deal. They couldn't have just been lucky or worked within industry systems. There must be hidden explanation. The conspiracy theory denies that success can come from ordinary means: talent, luck, connections, timing, hard work. It insists that extraordinary success requires extraordinary explanation, and secret society membership provides that explanation. Look at the class dimension. Illuminati conspiracy theories are often promoted by and appeal to people who feel excluded from elite success. The theories allow them to dismiss elite achievement. They only succeeded because they joined the conspiracy. While explaining their own lack of success, the system is rigged by secret society. This isn't entirely wrong. As social analysis elite success often does depend on networks and connections unavailable to outsiders. But attributing this to Illuminati conspiracy rather than to class reproduction through social capital and systemic inequality misses the actual mechanisms of power. The religious element of modern Illuminati theories also warrants examination. Many conspiracy theorists present the Illuminati as explicitly satanic, worshipping the devil and working to destroy Christianity. This framing allows the theories to tap into existing religious anxieties. The world is becoming more secular, not because people are making individual choices, but because satanic conspiracy is actively destroying faith. The historical Illuminati was not satanic. It was Enlightenment rationalist. Weishaupt advocated for reason over revelation. But he wasn't a devil worshipper. He was an atheist or deist who viewed religion as superstition to be overcome through education, not as evil force requiring occult opposition. But modern conspiracy theories have completely detached from historical reality. The Illuminati of contemporary mythology is a fictional construct that bears Weishaupt's organization's name, but shares almost nothing else. This raises an interesting question. Is it even useful to discuss the historical Illuminati when addressing modern conspiracy theories? The historical facts seem almost irrelevant when people believe what they want regardless of evidence. Perhaps the answer is yes. Historical facts matter precisely because conspiracy theories thrive in ignorance. Every person who learns what the Illuminati actually was, a small, briefly existing organization of Enlightenment intellectuals, is someone who might question the mythology. But facts alone won't defeat conspiracy theories. What's also needed is understanding why people believe them, the psychological needs they fill, the social functions they serve, the worldview they support. Illuminati conspiracy theories offer simple explanation for complex phenomena, villains to blame for personal and social problems, sense of special knowledge that sets believers apart, community with other believers, framework for interpreting confusing events, feeling of understanding how power works. Debunking the theories with facts often fails because people don't believe them primarily for factual reasons. They believe them because the beliefs serve psychological and social purposes. The future of Illuminati conspiracy theories seems assured. As long as society remains complex and many people feel confused and powerless, conspiracy theories offering simple explanations will find believers. The specific content will evolve. Future conspiracy theorists will attribute new technologies and social changes to Illuminati control, just as current theories attribute things that didn't exist in Weishaupt's time. But the basic structure will remain. Secret elite possesses hidden power, manipulates events according to long-term plan, uses symbols and secret communication, and works toward goals that benefit them at everyone else's expense. This narrative is too appealing, too psychologically satisfying, and too flexible to disappear. Adam Weishaupt's unintentional legacy is a conspiracy theory that will likely outlive every actual institution he created or influenced. So we've seen how a Bavarian law professor founded a secret society that lasted 9 years, recruited perhaps 2,000 members, and was completely destroyed by government crackdown in the 1780s, yet became the subject of conspiracy theories that persist 250 years later, and now attribute to his organization control over everything from global banking to hip-hop music. The gap between Adam Weishaupt's historical reality and the Illuminati mythology is almost impossible to overstate. The real Weishaupt was a moderately successful academic who created an interesting but ultimately unsuccessful organization. The mythological Weishaupt is an immortal mastermind whose conspiracy spans centuries and controls world events. The real Illuminati recruited a few hundred intellectuals, operated for less than a decade, and left behind primarily a collection of documents seized by police. The mythological Illuminati controls banking systems, manipulates governments, orchestrates revolutions, and operates through symbols hidden in plain sight. Understanding the difference matters, not because debunking the conspiracy theory will convince true believers, but because the mythology has real consequences. Illuminati conspiracy theories have been used to justify anti-Semitism, leading directly to violence against Jewish communities. They distract from genuine analysis of how power operates in modern societies. They redirect energy from practical political organizing to useless conspiracy mongering. and they poison public discourse by making every discussion about elite power vulnerable to conspiracy thinking. When people discuss legitimate concerns about banking regulation, wealth concentration, or political corruption, conspiracy theorists intrude with claims about Illuminati control. This makes serious discussion harder because reasonable criticism gets lumped together with paranoid conspiracy theories. The tragedy is that many of the concerns conspiracy theorists express are legitimate. Financial systems do concentrate power in ways that benefit elites. Large institutions do make decisions that affect millions without democratic input. Wealthy individuals and corporations do exercise political influence disproportionate to their numbers. These are real problems worthy of serious analysis and political organizing. But framing them as Illuminati conspiracy rather than as structural features of how modern capitalism and concentrated power function makes solving them harder, not easier. Real accountability requires understanding actual mechanisms of power, how lobbying works, how campaign finance influences politics, how regulatory capture happens, how information asymmetry advantages insiders. Conspiracy theories skip this hard analytical work in favor of simple narratives about secret societies. The historical Illuminati, when examined without conspiracy theory distortions, offers fascinating insights into Enlightenment radicalism, the tensions between intellectual aspiration and political reality, and how secret societies actually functioned in 18th century Europe. Weishaupt was a brilliant organizational theorist who designed sophisticated structures for coordinating secret activities. He was also naive about how quickly governments could destroy organizations that threatened their interests. He wanted to transform European civilization through patient infiltration and gradual reform. He failed completely, but created documentary evidence that would fuel conspiracy theories for centuries. The lesson isn't that secret societies are all powerful, it's that they're actually quite vulnerable to determined government action. The Bavarian authorities needed only a few years to completely destroy the Illuminati once they committed to doing so. But the lesson conspiracy theorists draw is exactly opposite. The fact that the organization was destroyed proves it went deeper underground and became more secretive. This is the unfalsifiable logic that makes conspiracy theories so durable. Perhaps the deepest irony is that Weishaupt, who advocated for Enlightenment rationalism and evidence-based thinking, became the center of conspiracy theories that reject both. He wanted to advance reason. His legacy is used to promote irrational thinking. He wanted to educate people to think critically. The mythology surrounding his organization encourages people to believe claims without evidence. He wanted to undermine religious superstition. Modern Illuminati theories are often promoted by religious conspiracists who view him as satanic. In almost every way, the conspiracy theories betray what Weishaupt actually stood for. But this is fitting for a mythology that has so little connection to historical reality. Looking forward, Illuminati conspiracy theories will undoubtedly evolve and adapt to new circumstances. Future conspiracy theorists will attribute new technologies, artificial intelligence, biotechnology, space exploration, to Illuminati control. They'll find new symbols to analyze and new celebrities to accuse of membership. The specific content will change, but the psychological appeal will remain constant. Simple explanation for complex world, villains to blame for problems, special knowledge that sets believers apart. Fighting these conspiracy theories requires multiple strategies. Historical education about what the Illuminati actually was helps some people. Media literacy to help people evaluate sources and evidence helps others. Understanding the psychological needs conspiracy theories fill helps explain why they persist. But ultimately, conspiracy theories thrive in societies where many people feel powerless, confused, and disconnected. Addressing those underlying conditions through better education, more transparent institutions, more responsive democratic processes, and more equitable distribution of power and resources is probably more important than debunking specific conspiracy theories. As long as society remains complex and many people feel excluded from understanding how it works, conspiracy theories will find believers. The Illuminati mythology, with over 2 centuries of elaboration and cultural penetration, is particularly well positioned to persist indefinitely. So the question isn't whether Illuminati conspiracy theories will disappear. They won't. The question is whether we can create a society where fewer people find them psychologically necessary, where more people have the tools to evaluate claims critically. and where legitimate concerns about power and accountability are addressed through democratic processes rather than conspiracy thinking. Adam Weishaupt would probably appreciate the irony that his failed attempt to create a rational society produced one of history's most irrational legacies. But he'd also recognize that the fight between Enlightenment rationalism and conspiracy thinking that defined his era remains unresolved in ours. The battle continues 250 years later, with the stakes just as high and the outcome just as uncertain. If you made it through this deep dive into the truth about Adam Weishaupt and the Illuminati, separating the 9 years of historical reality from 250 years of conspiracy theory mythology, and understanding how a Bavarian discussion group became the world's most famous fictional secret society, drop a "yet" in the comments. This video required digging through actual historical documents from the Illuminati. Yes, they exist in Bavarian archives. Reading Weishaupt's own writings defending the organization, tracing how conspiracy theories evolved from 1790s paranoia through anti-Semitic propaganda to modern hip-hop symbolism analysis, and trying to understand why millions believe claims that have zero factual foundation. The Illuminati story is a masterclass in how conspiracy theories work, how they merge different narratives, adapt to new circumstances, and persist regardless of evidence because they serve psychological needs that facts don't address. If you're interested in more content separating historical reality from conspiracy mythology, check out my video on the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, another completely fabricated conspiracy theory that has caused enormous real-world harm. The link is in the description. Subscribe if you enjoyed this exploration of how conspiracy theories actually function and why debunking them requires more than just presenting facts. I try to examine both the historical truth and the psychological appeal of conspiracy thinking. Next week, I'm covering the actual history of the Federal Reserve, how it was really created, why it exists, and what it actually does, without any secret society nonsense. Understanding real financial systems is more important than chasing imaginary conspiracies. Thanks for watching, and remember, the world is complicated enough without inventing secret societies that don't exist to explain it.